This is Talkback with Peter Christian and John King. 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309.
This is Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and now 101.5 FM.
Newstalk KGVO,
Missoula's news and weather station.
Conservative groups.
So what does a strong conservative presence look like? I've been to many college campuses. I have not seen that at any college campus myself, but I guess I could see it at some of the private schools and institutions like that. That makes a lot of sense. But are we talking about public universities or what?
Yeah, I think there's a common misconception amongst all universities. I mean, overwhelmingly, the administration is liberal at whatever college campus you go to. And there's always, college Republicans' presence, but there's also a strong presence of other conservative groups, groups that we're seeing that are for Second Amendment rights, that are pro-life issues, or that are just general conservative groups. We're seeing those types of groups spring up all across the country. And during my work in Texas, we saw almost 30 groups, start up just this semester.
And what rallies kids these days? I mean, what are kids interested in? And what makes people come out and get interested in politics? I watched, for example, I had a friend from Spain that lived with me for a while and completely apathetic about it. And he's not unique. A lot of people in Spain are apathetic. They have fairly low turnout, as I understand it anyway, for voting, etc. It just didn't care. It didn't seem to match up. And in Japan, where I used to live, generally apathetic towards the government and its ability to achieve things. They've been dealing with stagflation for a long time. Maybe that burnt out. And over here in America, frankly, talking to most people, they're burnt out on Republicans and Democrats. And they're tired of a system that doesn't seem to work, where it's always bickering and fighting no matter what the incident happens to be. So I would like to ask you, if you could tell us real quick, kind of give us your take on what motivates college kids or college-age kids to get involved in politics.
Well, you're definitely right in the sense that there is quite an apathy when it comes to college campuses and college students. But I think what we're seeing now is conservatives are seeing that there's opportunities for them to join these types of groups. And it's almost like a breath of fresh air, like a realization that they're not alone. And what we're seeing is a transformation where previously in the conservative and the Republican movements, it was generally old man's game. But now we're seeing youth on campus, seeing what's happening on campus, the discrimination, the bias, the anti-free speech that they're experiencing, and we're seeing them take a stand against those things.
Did you see that sort of stuff? I mean, we hear about it from Yale, and, you can't wear a Halloween costume if it doesn't fit everyone's bill. You can't do these, what do they call it, transgressive acts of defiance against speech codes. And is that something that was popping up where you were?
Absolutely, all the time.
Like what sort of stuff are they not allowing? When you say they don't allow free speech, what do you mean?
Sure. So there's a policy on campuses across the United States where they have a free speech zone on their campus. Essentially, it's a little circle in the middle of the big campus where you can only share your beliefs or opinions within that circle. And
we have one of these here on UM, by the way.
And it's ridiculous. I mean, America's a free speech zone. But I was actually on a campus one time and handing out constitutions on Constitution Day. But I decided to do it outside the free speech zone. It seems to be universally accepted. It's Constitution.
Ooh, you crossed the line.
I think I might have. And a buddy and I just had a table set up, and we're handing out constitutions to kids and helping him promote his club. And sure enough, an administrator came up and said, "Look, you're not inside the free speech zone today, and so you're going to have to move, or you're going to have to vacate." And I said, "Well, we'll just move to the free speech zone." And she ended up saying, "Well, there's actually an event happening at the free speech zone today." So I asked her, "So there's no free speech today?" And she said, "Yep, sorry, no free speech today."
This is John King. I've got Jace Holyoke in studio, and we already have a question. This one's from Katie. She wants to know, who was your employer and how did you get paid when you were an activist?
I was employed by the Leadership Institute, which is a nonprofit organization. And essentially what they do is they are dedicated to promoting conservative causes across college campuses. So we didn't work for the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, but we promoted conservative belief systems.
Well, what does that mean? I mean, if someone said, hey, you did the job, so you should probably know, right? What is conservative?
Conservatism is ideology that would, stand for limited government, for capitalism, for social issues such as pro-family, pro-life, Second Amendment support, different issues like that. We promote on the issues, but not so much on the party politics.
Gotcha. When it comes to those issues, you were talking to me a little bit about one of your friends that got in trouble with a particular amendment in that untrustworthy Constitution you were handing out on campus. So tell us a little bit about his story.
Yeah, there's a student at Blinn Community College, which is a community college just located outside of Texas A&M in the College Station area in Texas. And essentially, this student was creating a Second Amendment group on campus.
Now, wait, is this like a hunting club, carry your rifle to class sort of thing, or what?
No, not necessarily. It was, get a group of people together that like guns, and they would promote the Second Amendment, promote concealed carry on campus, and then on the weekends, they'd probably go shooting together.
Sure.
And so this student, in the process of creating this group, another student got offended because, well, of course, the guns, and how dare they?
Sure.
And so what they did is this student went to the administration and said, look, this is offensive to me. I don't think this group should exist. And the administration said, you know what, you're right. How dare they start a Second Amendment group on campus? And so they went to the president of the club and said, look, you can't have this group on campus. It's offended students, and that's not what we stand for at this university.
How can the university stop your freedom to assemble?
Well, that's the thing.
I mean, obviously they could stop your freedom to speak. Now they can stop your freedom to assemble too.
Well, that's the struggle that they're going through with that club right now, because usually what we do in that situation is we would have a law firm write them a nasty letter which says, this is obviously free speech. This is their students. They have rights on campus, and they have the right to gather together and promote what they believe in. And in this situation, the administration, said, no, that's not their right at all. And so right now it's going through the courts, and ultimately, I'm sure it'll be ruled as a free speech issue. So.
Wow. What about yourself personally? Did you see any blowback? Obviously you had that situation where it was illegal to hand out constitutions, and you couldn't find a free speech zone. It just happened to be absent that day. Maybe it was in the twilight zone. So other than that, did you have any other run-ins or blowback?
Absolutely. Another specific example is we were on campus and we were promoting pro-life issues, and we were having a group together where we were talking about the Planned Parenthood facts. We were talking about the threat that they are to life. And you have administration walk by you and say, look, this is offensive to me. You need to take this down. Ultimately, we don't take it down unless someone of authority tells us to take it down. And then if they tell us to take it down, we'll get it on video and make sure that the world knows about it, because that's not fair. So
do you have any fun bootleg video? I've seen some crazy stuff, like with your Constitution. I think it's Project Veritas. They had this. They had plants handing out constitutions, and they had a lady pretending to be offended, went to the administrator and had the administrator shred the Constitution in front of her, which was really ironic.
Well, it's just that culture on campus that students want to be coddled. They don't want to experience diversity of opinion, and that's not at all what we're doing. And it's sad that those types of students exist nowadays. And at our age, when we're in college, is when we should be exposed to the most amount of diversity and thought. We should have our beliefs challenged so we can grow. Yeah,
you would hope so. I'm going to play, this is actually an old clip I loaded up, but it'll work for the time that we got here. This is Alan Dershowitz, who actually I believe is a lefty generally, but he's responding to some of the free speech issues on college campuses in an interview with Megyn Kelly on Fox. Here's what it sounded like.
We have rules. Have those same rules on college campuses. You can't talk that way. You can't say those things, because this is an institution. This is a place where you shouldn't have to be subjected to that.
Well, these are the same people who claim they're seeking diversity. The last thing many of these students want is real diversity, diversity of ideas. They may want superficial diversity of gender, superficial diversity of color, but they don't want diversity of ideas. We're seeing a curtain of McCarthyism descend over many college campuses. I don't want to make analogies to the 1930s, but we have to remember that it was the students at universities who first started burning books during the Nazi regime. And these students are book burners. They don't want to hear diverse views on college campuses. When I went to speak at Johns Hopkins University, There were protests. It was said that because I won't acknowledge that Israel commits crimes against the Palestinians, I am, quote, harassing students and violating the ethical standards of Johns Hopkins University. By expressing my opinion, I'm harassing students. This has become a very serious problem, not only in American universities, but in universities around the world as well. And it is influencing and having a terrible impact on the education of students.
You have spent your life in a courtroom and on college campuses, on one in particular, and it is an elite institution. When you go to college, you know, as my 100-year-old Nana would say, at least it was when I went to school, you go and you express your freedom and you find it's young adulthood and you want to do all sorts of things and you don't want anybody getting all up in your business. But now they're demanding that the school get all up in everybody's business, and the freedom has to stop when it comes to words.
No, it's the worst kind of hypocrisy. They want complete freedom over their sex lives, over their personal lives, over the use of drugs. But they want mommy and daddy, dean and president to please give them a safe place, protect them from ideas that may be insensitive and maybe will make them think. But it's a double standard. Look at what's happening at Hunter University, City University of New York. Students from the Students for Justice for Palestine have issued a petition saying Zionist administrators are causing high tuition in the school. Zionist administrators, you know what they mean by Zionists? They mean Jews. Blatant anti-Semitism. Nobody says a word. When I spoke at Johns Hopkins University, some of the protesting students, the same students who were talking about safe places, painted a Hitler mustache on my posters. No concern about that. It's an absolute double standard. It is free speech for me, but not for thee, and universities should not tolerate this kind of hypocrisy, double standard, and college administrators have to start treating students as adults.
All right, there you go. We got to go to a commercial break. But this guy, I mean, this is a Democrat, a devout Democrat for many, many years. He's also a pretty brilliant guy. At 28, he was a professor at Harvard Law, the youngest full-time professor at Harvard Law, I think, in the school's history. And obviously, he's seeing some of the same problems that Jace is seeing on college campuses, but maybe from a little bit different perspective with the cane and a few more wrinkles. We'll be back after a quick break. Give us a call, 721-1290, to get your word in edgewise. Catherine, thanks so much for calling in.
Good morning. There's a college in Pennsylvania called Lebanon Valley College, I believe, and they are protesting the name of a hall that's named after a guy who was very influential in the 30s for that little college. And his name is Lynch, and so the students wish to rename the hall because of, well, Lynch, racism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
I see.
So, yeah, but the administration is considering it. And that brings up the question that I wanted to ask is because the administrations of all these places are the ones that are backing down in the face of these protests, and they're not, just saying, look, man up or cowboy up or woman up or whatever.
So gender specific. That would not go on a college campus, Catherine.
Exactly. But so they're part of the problem, and how are you going to address that, or can you address that at all? Because they're, spineless, I guess, in the face of protests.
It's a good question. I'll let Jace answer. Jace, what do you think? What should administrators do when they hear these protests and calls for silencing opposition?
Well, I think every administrator is its own individual, and I think that they'll each have their own strength in their spine, per se. But I would say that what needs to happen is it needs to come from the students. I think the more that students engage in their conservative belief system, then the more the administration has to listen to them.
Yeah, but there's blood in the water here. When you see an administration give way to this sort of thing, it's like a dominoes string, another one does it, then another one does it, then another one does it. And in fact, those two professors at Yale that got in trouble, remember the lady, she wrote that argument in defense of kids being able to wear the clothes they want to wear, which is a debate you should have settled in grade school, by the way. She left the school, doesn't want to teach anymore because of the blowback. Let's go to Marilyn. Marilyn, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I found this out when I went to the University of Montana campus some years back for a pro-life issue. The students there were so belligerent and so angry and so afraid of our pamphlets and our signs and our speech that the police, we didn't ask the police to come, but, and yes, we were told to move to the free speech circle. Or we were at where the Grizz was, and then we were told to move over by the university
So
district.
they had it back. When were you there?
Oh, gosh, it was probably more than 5 years ago.
Oh, but they already had the free speech circle, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so the police on bicycles had to come and protect us. They surrounded us because the students were such bad actors.
It sounds like a fight in Anchorman or something.
Oh, it was awful. And so, but then I was reminded again of it when that fellow that was collecting signatures on campus, that guy that called in a couple times, Louis, I think was his name.
Oh, yeah, Louis Gohmert.
No, the guy on
Louis
campus.
Schneller. Louis Schneller?
Yeah.
I only have 8 seconds left, Marilyn.
Okay, well, I wanted to tell him welcome to my world because I've collected signatures on many different issues on petitions for years, and people have been afraid to sign.
Thanks, Marilyn. We'll be back after the top of the hour break.
This is Talkback with Peter Christian and John King. 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309.
This is Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and now 101.5 FM.
Newstalk KGVO.
Missoula's news and weather station.
Talkback is brought to you by the Mustard Seed Asian Cafe, Kootenai Creek Village, Dig It Excavating. That'd be excavating, John. Threw an S in there somewhere. Missoula Nissan Hyundai, locally owned office solutions and services, transport equipment, and by Bulls Eyewear.
The views and opinions expressed on Talkback are not those of the staff, management, or advertisers.
Well, I was supposed to have a bunch of college students from the University of Montana on the show that were planning a protest tomorrow. We're going to talk to them, but none of them have shown up yet. Hopefully they're driving in their cars. If you don't know where we're at 3250 South Reserve, and we're waiting for you. But I still have Jace Holyoke in studio, and we are kind of open phonesing it now. You can give us a call at 721-1290. We have a comment on Facebook. I'll read it, and there's a response to the comment. I'll read that as well. Elena said, "The truth is the truth, no matter what your political persuasions, unless you're a socialist, a fascist, a communist, or, and you can now add, a Muslim." And to which Josh Britton said BS. So apparently he disagrees with her on that. I wanted to get your take on the presidential. Well, you're kind of talking about this during the top of the hour break. What of, talking with young kids, college students, when you look at the large array of presidential candidates out there, which one do college conservatives kind of align themselves with?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. Unfortunately, when we take a step back and look at all the presidential candidates, students, unfortunately, really enjoy Bernie Sanders.
Yes, I've noticed that.
Now, when you talk to them about why they like him, obviously, free college.
He'll do my laundry.
He'll do everything. He'll give us everything, right? But when I explain to them, what that comes with a cost.
Do that with me. Let's just pretend. I really like Bernie Sanders. I actually do think he's one of the most earnest Democrats out there. He seems to actually believe in what he's talking about and doesn't hide behind some curtain of middling politics. So tell me, why shouldn't I love Bernie Sanders? Why can't he achieve the things he wants to achieve, or why would it be bad?
Well, when you take a step back at face value, right? Free college is awesome. I would love to have free college, but when you look at the realistic. If it's realistic or not, it's not realistic. It's not going to happen. Bernie Sanders, his plan is going to cost, I think, $18 trillion, and that is not going to happen at all. The whole socialist mentality, generally speaking, is really unrealistic, and it's really going to damage America. I mean, the whole top tax bracket is going to be taxed, 80 or 90%?
Well, let me ask you this. We've had free public school for high school and grade school for a long time. Is our country worse off for that? And why wouldn't adding free college on top of that be a good thing?
I think I have a unique perspective from this because I was homeschooled up until I attended high school.
And you had horrible homeschool teachers from time to time, like John King.
No. God bless my mother. She's the best. No, I think that when and if the federal government were to get involved in the college school system, I think it would end up hurting the students' overall capabilities to succeed. I think we've seen that here in Missoula when, we had Superintendent Apostle here, and he was, and now Denise Juneau's promoting it on a statewide level, the whole graduation matters rhetoric, when ultimately what they're doing is they're just decreasing the value of education so they can promote greater graduation rates so they can receive more funding. So I think there's a dangerous game that the government plays when they try to get involved in public education.
All right. Well, we got a caller on line 1. And we've got, I think this is Dave.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Dave.
I'm a strong believer in free speech, but, it's a fine line. What do we do when, let's say, that Israeli soldier who drove down the street of a Palestinian city with his loudspeaker telling them that they were going to all be gassed to death? I mean, is that allowed? Is that free speech?
Well, there is a line, right? At least in the United States. I don't know about Palestine or Israel, but in the United States, right? There's the fire in a crowded building sort of line. If you're inciting violence with your speech, that crosses the line. And I think that sounds a little bit like it's inciting violence. I don't know the scenario that you're describing. But do you think that anything that Jace was doing, handing out constitutions, did that cross the line?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think so. But, the people who oppose him, who are yelling at him, free speech, in my view, isn't always free. I mean, if you have one opinion on one side and someone's yelling at you at an opinion on the other, it may not be good etiquette, but they have a right to yell at you, too, their opinion.
Well, we're not just talking about the opinion of them. They have the administration power. They could evict him. They can use force.
Right, and I disagree with that.
So it's definitely not at even terms at that level, right?
Right. I totally agree with that.
All right.
But it is a good question, though. If the Palestinian or Arab religion is a violent religion, and as such these are violent people, then is it right for the state to eliminate a group of violent people? Is that a question that we should be asking?
Well, I think by nature, people aren't inherently violent, right? We should give everybody the same rule of justice. You have the right to change.
But there are a lot of people who believe that the Muslim religion is a violent religion.
Oh, sure. I mean, there's definitely people that believe all kinds of things. Luckily, we don't live under the constitution of everyone's belief.
Yes. Well,
hey, thanks for your time, Dave.
Sure, bye.
Hey, we'll be back right after this quick break. We have our college students. I'm excited. We're going to talk about the budget and a planned protest. The group is called, I believe, United. Did I get that right? All right, cool. We'll talk about how to use the mics during the break, and we'll get back to you. We've got Natalie and Aaron in the room, so we're looking forward to the conversation. Give us a call, 721-1290. It looks like the phone's ringing. Jace is going to pick it up for you. We'll be back right after this quick break. We've got a couple of guests in studio right now. We have Natalie Stockman and Aaron Goudreau, and both of them are University of Montana students who have something to say about the budget cuts and the way that they're impacting their school. So go ahead and grab that mic, one of you. Yeah, there you go. I think we got Natalie on the line here. Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Natalie. So, Natalie, tell us a little bit about your student's perspective. Give us your take on what's going on at the University of Montana.
So, I would say it's been a long 3 weeks in general. As a whole for the student body, it's supposed to be dead week, but as we know, it's not very dead. We have a lot of stuff to do, and finals are coming next week, so everybody's got their head down in a little tunnel trying to get what they need to do done. So there's a lot. I mean, students are really trying their hardest to make their voices heard in this matter, but it's very poor timing, as most of us know, because the budget was announced, I want to say, around 4 weeks ago.
Sure.
Comment period ended the last day of vacation, which means pretty much like a good portion of the school has already left to travel. Mm-hmm. So bad timing, I would say.
You think that the administration did a bad job on timing it out?
Yeah.
Well, tell me how this actually affects you. Because a lot of people see this as a fight between faculty and administration. Yeah. The students are, they're in the other room while the parents fight. So we shouldn't be concerned about it. Tell us how you feel affected by it.
So I would say it's definitely, that's not what it is. I would say in general, it's not a faculty. It's not just a faculty admin. We've definitely been having, like, we went to, Aaron and I and another one of our friends, Maisie, who's also part of the UM United group, and two others. Hannah was there from our group, and we've been attending the ASUM Senate meetings, which the ASUM Senate, the senators posed amazing questions for the cabinet, for Engstrom's cabinet, which was great to see. And I think that there's a lot more going on here.
What do you mean, like a conspiracy?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to let Aaron to kind of...
Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
Jump in.
Yeah.
So
go
I
ahead and
think-
get closer to that mic.
Okay, so
There you go.
I think one of the things that I can speak to a little bit as an English major is one of the immediate concerns that we see or that we have about some of like the immediate consequences of this for students is looking at class sizes. So the Engstrom administration has been using the ratio 18-1 frequently. It's sort of become a buzzword, and that's an 18-1 student to faculty ratio that they want to get us back to.
Gotcha. What are they at now?
We're at something around 14-1 due to the decrease in enrollment. So
Okay.
we have fewer students per faculty member right now, and they want to get us back to that 18-1 ratio. One thing that concerns us is that these cuts are being made specifically to the humanities and liberal arts for the most part, which are the classes that, if anything, require a smaller student to teacher ratio than a class like a math class that's a lecture class in which students are silently sitting and taking notes and the professor is lecturing.
And if it's math, I'm not showing up anyway.
Exactly. And so I mean, for me as an English major, exactly. And so, but I think the idea is that how much of a difference is there in a class like that between having 40 students and 60 students for the students? It's obviously more work for the professor, but there's a big difference in a creative writing class, for example, or a history class or an anthropology class that's supposed to be discussion based. If you have more students than allows for the type of liberal arts, vigorous academic environment that students came here for.
I see. So let me ask you this, because this is the question that I was posed to by one of the faculty from the business side, right? They're not being hit in the same way, I understand it, as some of the liberal arts departments. And he said, hey, this is just a natural consequence of kids not wanting to choose certain subjects. And, conversely, we need to have more staff in other areas where students are migrating to, and we need to, use their funds wisely. We only have a limited amount of funds. We need to send the money where it will best help the students, and that's the real goal, right? Student improvement. So I guess with that centered in, why do you feel that students and student education at the University of Montana seems to be taking a back seat?
That's a really great and really complicated question. I mean, I think that within the idea that there are fewer students choosing the humanities right now than there have been previously, which is part of what I think is leading to this drop in enrollment at UM, because that is what it's known for, and MSU is known to be the sort of math and science counterpart.
So wait, you think that a change, but the change happened after the decline, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I just mean that I think that students, because there's less of a sort of promotion right now, I think nationwide, in studying the liberal arts. I think there's a promotion in focusing on STEM fields right now.
Sure.
I think we could probably all agree with that, and we could talk about the merits of that. But I think what that leads to is students going to MSU over UM when you're talking about in-state students that are looking at those two schools. And I think one of the things that we see as a problem, though, is Engstrom talked about this last night, in fact. He said that these preferences in majors fluctuate constantly.
Sure.
And that has been true over the last 50 years. And one of the problems with doing a massive sort of like cutting of faculty in one area, it's super inefficient, because when things go back up, it's an area where you have to do a bunch of rehiring, which is not a cost-effective process. And the business administration is one of the highest declines in enrollment right now, and it's not getting hit at all because the administration says they have a sense that that is an opportunity for enrollment growth. We don't really know where the sense is coming from.
Hopefully they have spider sense. I'd be unimpressed if they don't have some kind of mutation that lets them know what's coming in the future. Yeah, it looks like you wanted to say something there, Natalie. Go ahead.
Yeah, so a good point that has been sorry.
I got the same thing. It's all right.
Yeah.
Should have had a few less this
A
morning.
good point. So I've attended the Senate, the faculty Senate meetings, And a good point that was brought up by some of the business professors is that the business department, half of the credits that the students need to achieve is coming from outside majors. So half their credits are fulfilled by business requirements, business classes offered by the business program. Half of them are electives, so to speak, or to fulfill their specific interests to combine with their business degree. So when you damage, I'm going to use that word, damage the programs. I mean, and Engstrom used this word last night by saying that he wasn't going to completely get rid of any of these programs, but significantly cutting them is damaging them. And when you fragment these programs, you fragment them for all students across the board. If English classes are fragmented, that it leads to higher class sizes for every kid who has to take RIT 101.
All right. Hey, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. During the break, please give us a call, 721-1290. I especially want to hear from people involved in life at the University of Montana, whether you're faculty or a student, or, hey, if you're an administrator, that'd even be better. The number to call is 721-1290, and as always, we have open phones. Give us a call. We've got phone line open here. 721-1290 to give us a call. And we have one full. We're going to go ahead and take a call from Sue now. Everyone got their headphones on? All right, we're good. All right, Sue, thanks for calling in.
You bet. Yeah, I have a son who's on ASUM Senate, and he said they went till about midnight last night.
Oh, really?
He took a little break to go over to the Forward Montana Rockstar Party to get a special award. But he went back, and he texted me this morning and said they went till midnight. And I know that this is affecting students, because students are the ones who are affected by all of this the most, because there's a real sense of doom, I think. And I'm actually meeting with President Engstrom later on this morning to talk about enrollment.
Well, let me ask you this, Sue. How much of that sense of doom is actually in the control of the administration? And I'd like to get your take as well, ladies, Natalie and Aaron. It seems like a lot of the decline in enrollment is, just dumb luck, right? I mean, it goes up and down. We have an aging population in Montana, so...
Well, it does go up and down, but I think that part of the problem is the recruitment process is... I think I've, mentioned to you before that they are spending a lot of money recruiting local students in Missoula, which is ridiculous, because what they need to be recruiting is out-of-state students to get their, because they pay more in tuition. And we have a lot to offer here in Missoula that's being promoted in all kinds of ways. We're the new Portland, so to speak. But there's the university. Just in the last week, I have gone to 2 concerts and a play that were produced by the University of Montana School of Music and Theater, and that's not exactly where students go to make a lot of money. But there's certainly the talent is astounding, and they should be promoting that. They should be promoting J.K. Simmons as an Oscar award-winning actor, and he went to the University of Montana. They should be promoting those kind of things to students in California, Minnesota, Wisconsin, New York. We have a gem here in Missoula, and it's beyond my comprehension why they're not promoting that more. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk to the
So your main focus is that you think the enrollment is the fault of the administration, and you think it's because they're not selling the university property.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
Right. All right,
yeah.
I think I got your comment. Thanks for calling.
Okay.
In. All right, let's go to line 2. Tyler, you're on the air.
Hi. So I disagree with Sue and you.
With
the
me,
reason
I don't even have an opinion yet.
Oh, you don't yet? Okay. I thought you had just mentioned the same thing. That anyway.
I just restated her opinion.
Yeah. Okay. The reason why enrollment is down is because you've got a sitting president, 2 running Democrat candidates that are running on a platform of free college, and you have college students that have half a brain that's big enough to realize if I wait a year, this is going to be free because they think that the Democrats are going to win. So you have a drop in enrollment, and you have consequences. And the college climate is so upside down.
Well, let me ask you this: if that was the general case, then why would enrollment be up at MSU Billings or Bozeman? I should say.
Population.
No, it's not just population. I mean, yeah, sure, Bozeman's a slightly larger city, but I mean, we're
that's
talking
my
about
first response.
3,000 people difference.
Well, that would be my first response.
Okay.
Uneducated, I don't have any information about Bozeman, but that's just what I see. Our city here in Missoula is more liberal. It's more Democrat. It's more left-leaning. They hear these promises from these politicians and think, wow, all I have to do is wait, and I can go to school for free. I mean, who wouldn't want to go to school for free? That's what the Democrats are planning on winning the election on.
Well, it's
free stuff.
I'd love to hear if there's someone out there that is not going to school right now, because I don't have anybody I've met that is like this. But if you're out there and you fit Tyler's bill, thanks for calling in, by the way, Tyler. Give us a call, 721-1290. I've never heard that excuse for delaying college. Usually it's, Mom, I want to go experience life a little, have some freedom, check out Europe, and then Susie. And that's the end of that. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit. I wanted to get a response from Natalie and Aaron, if you will. So far, the biggest setback that it has that you've shown me that you think that will affect you negatively as a student at the University of Montana is that there's going to be 4 more people in your class. I mean, I've taught, and when I used to be a teacher in Japan, I had classes sometimes that had 32 kids in them, and I was teaching language arts. So, you know, it can be done. A good teacher can deal with it. So why is that such a big deal, or is there more to it than just the class size?
I think that there's a lot more to it. One thing that's important to remember is that this is not the first set of cuts that we've experienced in the past few years. It's also not the first time that those cuts have been specifically directed at this portion of the university. And there's no reason to think that we're going to have some sort of drastic increase in enrollment or even stagnation over the next couple of years that will make it so that we don't see this again. And one of the questions that was posed last night at the ASUM Senate meeting, which I thought was really important, was, when does this stop? Angstrom admitted that what they were doing was a slight downsizing and taking away focus from this part of the university and transferring it into the math and sciences and business and opportunities for enrollment growth. And students said, when does that end? There are a lot of people who came to this school specifically because it promotes itself in every brochure and online ad as a liberal arts university. That's why I came here, and I think that's why Natalie came here as well.
Yeah, so by the way, just so you know, Natalie is from Bernie Sanders' hometown, right?
Yes.
She comes from Burlington,
Vermont.
Sorry, Vermont. I messed it up because I've never been there. And then Erin Goudreau is an English major, literature and writing, and she's from Anchorage, Alaska. So both of these people know what they're talking about when they talk about the way that University of Montana sells itself and how it has successfully sold itself. So when you guys came in the last 3 years, so apparently you guys were sold, at least on the pitch that you heard, right?
Yeah, I think at least for me, it was less of a pitch. I
do want to get your take, but I also have commercial breaks.
Okay.
So I got to do that, and we'll come back and we'll get your response. So that was a horrible segue out, but we'll be back in just a second. Call us at 721-1290. Never mind, my lines are full. Try to comment on Facebook. We'll get you there. And we're speaking with, I think, Natalie was the last one. She was trying to give a response. I said that apparently whatever sales pitch the University of Montana was doing for getting people to come here was working on you two. Give me your response.
So I would say, in general, I received no solicitations from the University of Montana.
Oh, really?
I was looking. Yeah. So I looked all across the country.
Okay, what did you look for? So, because they need the Google keywords that you used, apparently.
So I wanted to see the mountains. I'm from Vermont. I have green mountains, and they're cute, and they're not very tall.
Darling.
And I wanted to
call them
ski,
hills.
and yeah, so I was looking, and also I have cousins here, so that plays a factor. So I'm looking at.
You cheated. You have family here.
I did, but I mean, I wasn't looking. Bozeman was not even on my radar for that reason, because it's not liberal arts. I was looking at liberal arts universities with a small student to faculty ratio. So I was looking for small class sizes.
How do you check that?
Well, I mean,
I haven't looked for a college for many years. So it tells you, okay.
Brochures, there's like, currently there is a packet that you can give out to students who are interested in UM, and they have like a UM report card.
What does it look like when you go on there now? I wonder. Under construction.
Yeah,
or something
I'm not
for
sure.
UM.
And that's kind of the confusing part is how do you market a liberal arts university when you're cutting those programs? How do you say that this is a strong university with a strong liberal arts background when you're cutting those programs? So
it's a good question. All right, we got to go to line. Boy, I think we're on line 3. Chris, thanks for calling in.
Hello. I went to University of Montana, and I promote citizenship and civility. I grew up in Missoula. So about 2 years ago, I set out to try to find the original liberal arts charter. In 1893, it was made. And has anyone talked about the charter?
No.
Well, I actually personally found it. It took maybe 6 months.
Did you have to go like through some catacombs and dodge rolling boulders and stuff? Where was it?
No, it was actually in the archives, the first place I went. And it was kind of a fun journey. They called it the search for the Holy Charter. No one had it. It was amazing. Wow. The archives didn't have it. The President's office didn't have it. The Montana Historical Society didn't have it. The Board of Regents didn't have it. People were starting to panic. The woman who does Charter Day did not have it. And in the end, I was looking at the original Articles of Incorporation for the University of Montana and also Bozeman. And I was looking at it, and there are 12 original Articles of Incorporation. And that was what the archivist gave me in my, the first day I went there. And so I got it in my mind. I talked to the Charter Day woman, and I said, do you think these Articles of Incorporation could be the charter? She said, I don't know. Let me call my boss. She called her boss, and he said, well, let me call Bill Johnstone, who was a 90-year-old man who used to work in archives. Uh-huh. And this 90-year-old man said, yes, that is the charter.
So tell us the end result of what you found. Obviously, someone touched it and turned to crumbling dust, or live forever. What is the charter? What does it say?
The charter, well, it says the object. Section 6 says the object of the University of Montana shall be to provide the best and most efficient manner of imparting to young men and women on equal terms a liberal education through the knowledge of the different branches of literature, science, and the arts. It also says in Section 9, I think, let me turn the page here.
Oh, you actually have it in front of you?
I have it, yes. Tuition shall ever be free to all students who shall have been residents of the state for 1 year, and so forth and so on.
I wonder how that got lost so easily.
Well, I made an ally, Sylvia Moore, who is at the time she was the assistant assistant deputy at the Board of Regents. Fabulous person and an advocate for liberal arts. And in my search for the Holy Charter, I got to know her. And when I finally found it, and I read that to her, I said, well, I don't, how does that work? And she did explain that the legislature at one point did vote to charge some tuition. As when I went there, it was the quarter system. It was $230 a quarter. But what she said that I thought was quite important is she said it does reflect the spirit of the founders, and that it is to be a liberal arts university, and that it is to be affordable. That's the key.
Yeah,
now,
I would say free is pretty affordable.
Yeah,
hey,
so
I gotta let you go, Chris.
Yes. Okay. Well, anyway, it is now on the University of Montana website, so people can access it there. It's buried in there, but you can find it. And legally, you may not be able to do anything with it, but it will give you some language.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for your time, Chris. All right. Well, it's also free is the radio. We don't charge anything except for the people that buy spots. And that's why I hit this button right now and listen to what they have to say. Our lines are full. Everybody has interesting stuff to say about what's going on at the University of Montana, including our guests in studio, Natalie Stockman and Aaron Goudreau, both of them University of Montana students, second year, in liberal arts departments and from not in Montana, although someone has some cousin grounding here. We've got our lines full, so I'm going to go straight to Cody. Cody, you're on the air. I think Cody hung up. So we're going to move on to Craig.
John?
Craig, you're on the air.
Hey, Jay sounds just like you when he answers the phone.
Yeah, right.
Hey, so nonetheless...
You don't know my voice by now?
What was that?
You don't know my voice by now, Craig?
Well, I do, but Jay's kind of threw me.
Okay.
Hey, listen, my man, I'm just calling in because of your comment about the size of classrooms. That's what hit my mind up. But nonetheless, when I was a young fella, we never had a classroom with less than 30-plus people in it. Never. Mm-hmm. And, well, I don't know. Everything would seem to have been smaller or larger in those days, with the exception of our deficit, you know.
Okay.
So, well, anyways, that's my 2 cents.
All right, Craig, thanks for calling in.
Good day.
All right. I'm on to line 1. Is this Tate? Hello? Who's on line 1? Tate? No? All right. Looks like we're dropping some people. All right, line 2 should be Patty. Patty?
Yes.
Oh,
hello.
good. We got one. All right. What's up?
I just wonder if those ladies got their in-state tuition the second year.
Did you? We're getting big no heads. No shaking.
Yeah, well, nobody ever does. And that's one of the problems. That's the reason that the university, because the employees there look at the students as immediate gratification. And you can't run a university like that. You can't tell students that come over from Japan, they used to have a lot of Japanese students,
sure,
that after you do this and you do this and you do this, you register to vote, you do this and you do this, next year you'll be in state.
Well, now,
Never,
if I'm not
never,
right,
never
if I'm not
have
wrong,
I
this
seen
isn't this a state legislative decision, not a University of Montana decision?
I don't know. All I know is what I know is that most of the students, and I've had lots of dealings with them, mm-hmm, I've never seen one that did everything they were told to be given in-state tuition. They always go back, oh, but you didn't do this. Well, you didn't tell them to do that.
Okay.
Even kids that have had parents that have been teachers in the state.
Sure.
And so that, in the long run, has hurt the university. Because they go back and they say, I wouldn't go there. I did everything they told me, and then I was still out of state. Well, I think the law students sued, but I'm not positive about that. But I'm pretty sure.
If the university is not fulfilling its end of the deal and doing things by the line, then I think
they
you've got a really good case. Well, hey,
yeah,
thanks for your call, Patty.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, let's talk about that, ladies. Natalie and Aaron, I wanted to know, what do you think about the cost? Because most people say that you get a pretty good deal, especially if you're in-state, for going to the University of Montana. And she's mentioned Japanese students. I've had quite a few that come through from my history of teaching in Japan that I've befriended, and they seem to have enjoyed their time at the University of Montana for the cost, especially compared to like Tokyo University and other universities in Japan. I mean, it's a steal of a deal, even if you got to fly over here. So I was hoping maybe to get your take on what you feel the value for the cost at the University of Montana. Be brave.
I'll just say something quick.
Okay.
So I'm from the East Coast. I'm from Vermont. So in the grand scheme of things, even the out-of-state tuition for an East Coaster is relatively affordable. I mean, it's definitely there's a huge discrepancy between in-state and out-of-state, and that's across the board for the nation.
Because we're better than you. It's okay.
That's just
we
the way
knew
it
to be
is.
born here a long time ago.
Anyway, I think that I don't love, like, the discrepancy is pretty huge, and as I'm getting here, it's becoming more daunting.
Sure.
But I mean, it's pretty affordable nationwide. I mean, there are some pretty expensive educations and degrees.
Now, what about you? Because you come from a Rocky Mountain state, kind of technically, Alaska, right? So is it that different from your home state?
You know, it's pretty similar, but one thing that I should mention is a huge part of the reason that I came here, in addition to the liberal arts education, was that I was offered a really generous scholarship, an academic scholarship. So I was one of those students who was actually kind of recruited due to my performance in high school, basically.
Sure.
And so, and that has been.
Did you build a clock?
I built a clock that
Awesome.
didn't look like a clock, and then it got bad. No.
Are you moving to Pakistan?
I'm not.
Okay.
I think it's like guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, you think you're right.
No, but one thing I think actually that comment speaks to a little bit is this kind of idea of like universities being run more and more like businesses, and I think, and students being treated more and more like customers. And so that seems sort of obvious, but that is not actually the way it has always been. I mean, the idea of like, we have a budget deficit, and so we're going to fire faculty, that's a very business model. You fire your employees. It's the easiest thing to do. It doesn't require a creative solution.
All right. Well, we'll take your creative solutions at 721-1290. We got one line full and more to fill. Give us a call. 721-1290. We'll be back. My song didn't work. Well, that's okay. We've got our lines full. Man, that was fast. Let's see. I've got line 1 and line 2. I guess I'll take line 1 first. Is this Helena?
This is Helena. Hello.
Hey, how are you doing today? You're on the air.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to call in and thank Natalie and Aaron for having the courage to step forward and discuss these issues, and it's been so gratifying to see the love and interest for the University of Montana. And I just want to encourage other people out there who have thoughts on these matters to call in. I'm a graduate of the university. The education I received there changed my life, and it made me a better person, a better employee, all of those things. And I just want to thank them, first of all, and all the people, faculty, staff, students who have the courage to speak up and confront the administration, and also try to engage them in some creative solutions. So just wanted to get that said.
Well, as a graduate, you've got to be at a different level of thought on this. What do you think the administration should do, Helena?
I think they should, first of all, figure out exactly what's going on as far as enrollment and why the numbers aren't stable or going up, and engage with people who have been successful in these efforts before. I think there's a willingness sometimes on the part of this administration to just try something new for the sake of trying something new, and it doesn't pan out. Go to people who have succeeded in these endeavors, either elsewhere or here, and ask them, well, how did you do this? And you might have to tweak it for different times, for social media, for other concerns that you have contemporarily. But, you know, there's methods, and then there's just flailing around. And as a person observing this situation, I get the feeling that some people are just flailing around trying to find the next solution. The problem is it eventually comes to rest at other people's expense, like Aaron and Natalie and other students, and they need to know they can complete a degree and get the education that's required of them.
Sure. Well, hey, thanks for calling in, Helena. Voicing your opinion. We're going to go.
Thanks.
You're welcome. We're going to go ahead and get Tim's opinion on the air. Thanks for calling in, Tim.
Morning. You mentioned that the college is a business. That's exactly what it is.
Okay. Yeah, that was, I think, Natalie brought that up. Or was it Aaron? Aaron brought up the idea of it being a business.
Okay, so where I'm going now is in order for a business to survive, they have to put out a quality product.
Mm-hmm.
That quality product can't be tainted.
Okay.
In reference to the professors are teaching communism more than the degrees that they're going for. And the second point is, do you think that all the sexual violence allegations in the recent history had anything to do with it?
That's a great question. I'd love to hear their viewpoint on that. Well, thanks for your call, Tim.
Thank you.
I kind of wanted to jump to the last part first of what he had to say. That's one of the main excuses, actually, that the administration has made in the past. We had a federal investigation. There was a lot of hubbub over what happened on campus or didn't happen or what have you in the past, and how the campus dealt with sexual violence. What's your take on it?
Yeah, this is an issue of particular import to me. It's something I've been kind of involved in. And I will say that I think it's actually one of the best arguments for looking at the university as part of the problem when it comes to enrollment, because this was an administrative mishandling of events that took place on campus. A problem with the process in terms of how victims of sexual assault, alleged victims of sexual assault, were then dealt with, and one of the major enrollment drops that happened in the 2013 to 2014 year, it was mostly a female enrollment drop. And so I think that for me, there was already an article out in Time magazine when I was deciding to go to UM. I got many emails from grandparents and extended family members that was like, why are you doing this? You shouldn't be going here. Have you been reading the news? And essentially every year for the past several years, there's been an article or a DOJ investigation or a nationally renowned book out. I mean, it's been heavy-handed, and I think it's had a major effect.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that it was overhyped, the threat at the University of Montana?
I think
Or do you think it was a real deal, that we should be more concerned than other universities in the region?
I think that that's the distinction. I think what was overhyped was the idea that the University of Montana is some sort of a rape capital in the nation. I think that what was not overhyped was the degree to which sexual assault was mishandled. I just think that that is par for the course at universities across the nation. I don't think that we received undue or sort of undeserved attention, though. I think we mishandled things.
All right. We've got a call in. It's actually Mayor Dad, my guest from yesterday. Mayor Dad, Kia, thanks for calling in.
John, it's wonderful talking to you.
I shouldn't have assumed your last name, Mayor Dad, because I only have the written, but you're the only Mayor Dad I know, so thanks for calling in.
I think there is only one in Missoula so far.
So what's on your mind today?
So I want to first of all congratulate and salute both Erin and Natalie and the entire student group for the amazing work they have done and for organizing this rally, but other events and actions. They have really inspired many among the faculty, and I include myself. I really want to congratulate them for the courage and for the determination they have shown. It's high time that the students, who are the true reason we are here, to be part of this process and to voice their concerns, not only to the administration, but to us, the faculty and the staff, and the community as a whole. And I am planning myself to join the rally, and I would like to invite everyone in Missoula. This is your university. This is a public university. To join the staff, faculty, and students as they express their concern. This is not something against someone, a person, or a group of people. This is for education, for public education, for higher education, for larger courses and academic programs, and for the University of Montana to preserve its national status as one of the most important institutions of higher learning.
Hey, Mayor Dad, thanks for calling in. I only have 50 seconds left, and I'd like you, if you would be willing, Natalie or Erin, to give your comments about the rally tomorrow. What time, where, what are you marching for? Okay, it's got to be 40 seconds.
Okay, so the rally is at the Bear. I don't think I need to explain further where that is. It'll be at noon. We will meet there. We'll have posters, and we will do a silent march from the Bear to Main Hall to deliver a petition to the president, which with almost 600 signatures at this point, and we're still tabling in the UC if you want to sign it. And we'd love to see everybody there to